grateful to kick off the Elevate series this morning. We have several back-to-back live streams today with very powerful thought leaders, but I'm very honored to introduce you to Brian Willis. We also have Ken Andruko on the line, whom you saw on Monday. What's really cool about this matchup today is that Ken is my mentor and Brian is Ken's mentor. And so I thought I was so excited when Ken said, we got to have Brian on the Elevate series. And I went to Brian's website. And on that website, there's a 20-ish minute video. And that's where I want to kick things off, Brian. So Brian is a catalyst for change in law enforcement. And there's a video on his website that says there is one question that you need to keep top of mind. And that question is, what's important now? And I think that that was so powerful when I saw that, Brian. So I would like to open the floor to you right out of the gates and say, tell us more about what's important now and how that fits into this crazy time that we're all faced with.
Well, thank you for that. So what's important now is a question that I borrowed. I borrowed it from Lou Holtz, a famous former college football coach, probably most famous for his time at the University of Notre Dame. And it was a concept that he used in his life and sought to instill in the young men that played football for him at Notre Dame and the other colleges and universities where he coached. He still speaks around the world to very diverse groups. And in many of those talks, he still talks about this question, what's important now, which I refer to as life's most powerful question. And it's easy to remember with the acronym WIN. I think the power of it is when we use it as a decision-making tool. And the reason I believe it's life's most powerful question is its simplicity, number one. It's just 3 words. It's that acronym WIN. But the other element of it is that it's diversity in application, the diverse ways that it can be applied. So I teach to predominantly law enforcement, but I have people around the world that are using this, people that have used it at as young as 14 to battle cancer. People have used it to deal with the death of a loved one. It's being taught in schools all the way from elementary school to college and university. It's being taught by youth sports coaches, and it's being used by public safety and emergency response personnel as well. And the first part of it, too, the simplicity, one thing I think we need to remember, and I think it very much ties in with this, what we're dealing with now, is when we talk about simplicity, there's a difference between simple and easy. So the concepts and the principles that I talk about are simple, but they're not easy. So simple is a lack of complexity, and easy is a lack of effort. So the advice that a lot of times we get, especially in these times, very often is simple, but it's not easy, and it takes work and it takes effort, and it takes work and effort to apply that on a day-to-day basis. Now, there's 3 kind of sub-elements with what's important now that I think very much apply to this whole issue that we're facing with COVID-19 and the drastic challenges to business owners and entrepreneurs and solopreneurs and people in all walks of life. And those 3 elements are, we need to embrace the suck, look for the good, and dare to be great. So when I'm talking about embrace the suck, I'm not talking about us ignoring the challenges or saying, well, you know what, they're just overblowing this. It's not a big deal. We don't know how big a deal it is or is going to be. The reality is the restrictions are in place. Businesses have been impacted. This is here. It's now. We have to deal with that. So I can either let the suck embrace me, and I can sit at home and complain about the fact that all of my training gigs over the next 2 or 3 months have all been canceled, and woe is me. But that's not going to help anybody. It's not going to help me. It's not going to help anybody else. So we need to, as James Stockdale, Medal of Honor recipient, a former prisoner of war, said, is we need to have the courage to face the most brutal facts of our current reality, but at the same time, we need to have the unwavering faith that we can and will prevail in the end. So we're going to get through this. We're absolutely going to get through this. So the challenge is, so now how do we look for the good in this? Now, people will say a lot of times, well, there is no good in this. You know, I've lost my business shut down. Ken knows my 2 sons. My younger son owns 3 restaurants. They're now all shut down. They were very successful. My older son has 2 boutique wine stores, which are still open, cocktail bar and a restaurant. The restaurant and the cocktail bar are shut down. So, you know, this is the reality for us, but we will at some point get through this. So how do we look for the good in this? Well, from a trainer, a speaker perspective, like I said, I can wallow in the fact with that, you know what, I've got no training gigs scheduled for the next 3 months now. Or I can say, you know what is the good that's come out of this? Well, I've got time. So I've got time to read. I've got time to research. I've got time to update content. I've got time to develop new content. I've got time to develop new ways of communicating. I know you're a big fan of video. And for those of us that haven't used it, then it's perhaps a wake-up call for us is this a way that we can communicate? I can say, well, you know what, nobody's paying me to come speak because my business is predominantly face-to-face training. But I can also step back from that and say, how can I still serve those people that I have the privilege and the honor of training? So is there free content that I can send them around some of these concepts that will help them to get through this time? Understanding that they're facing challenges as well. So as you know, people in the first responder community, they're still going to work and they're going out and dealing with these challenges. They're leaving their families at home and they're going and they may have a high level of getting exposed because of the nature of the work that they do. And so they're still showing up every day. They're working long hours. Their training has been cut. Their lives have been drastically impacted. So I think what we need to do is ask ourselves this question, what's important now? And what's important now is I can either wallow in this or I can step back and say, you know what, this sucks, but I'm going to embrace the suck. Because if I don't embrace the suck will embrace me.
Yep.
And then I can look for the good in this, and then I can dare to be great. How can I grow as a result of this? How can I thrive in this? How can I come out the other side better off? Which to me is exactly what you're doing with this series, these series of interviews. You're saying, you know what, this sucks that the world is impacted with this, but let's look at what can we do? Who can we reach out to, tap into? What can we share for information that if they get one little nugget from every interview, and it will make their life better. And as a result of this, we can all come out better off for the experience, which is the whole piece around post-traumatic growth, which I think is very applicable to this. And it's that concept of resilience, which we talk a lot about in the first responder community. And what I like is Eric Greitens, in his book Resilience, he talks about resilience is not about bouncing back. And what he says is you can never go back. So none of us can go back to the pre-COVID-19 days. He said it's not about going back. It's about moving through hardship to happiness, moving through pain to or suffering to strength, through pain to wisdom. And that resilient people find ways to incorporate the challenges that they faced into their life. So we can't go back as much as we'd all like to go back to pre-COVID-19 days. It's not going to happen. What can we do to embrace this, to move through it, and to come out the other side better and stronger, which is, I think, what you're trying to accomplish with this series.
Wow, everybody. I hope you're feeling what I'm feeling right now of just like, that was so much great wisdom. Thank you for that, Brian. I took several notes. I have lots of follow-up questions. I'll ask Ken in a moment what's on his mind as well. But what I first want to do is, for those of you who are just coming in, I'm Amber Vilhauer. I have a company, NG Enterprises, which stands for No Guts, No Glory. We build websites and do online marketing and book launches for authors, speakers, and coaches. I got a calling, personal calling, or like a cry to lead about a week ago. And I put together this Elevate series for really two reasons. Number one, to help provide you with expert information on how to think and move through professionally and financially through this time. Second purpose is we are asking for donations to COVID relief organizations and economic relief organizations. My team will post links into the comment thread below so that you know where we are donating personally. Really encouraged you to give back and help. And you touched on something, Brian, that I want to expand on for just a second in your Dare to Be Great bit. We were talking yesterday to Joel Comm, who's sort of like a futurist, an innovator, a speaker, an author. He's all kinds of amazing things. And our discussion was around video. And it said, you know what? If you are wondering what you should be doing right now, like what's important now, pull out your video camera, go live, and just talk. You don't have to have a script. You don't have to have this formal plan. It doesn't have to be like the most brilliant thing that you've ever come up with in your entire existence. It's just about a way of like, what's the message that's in your heart or in your mind, and just open your mouth and deliver, and then do it again, and then do it again and again and again, and then start inviting a couple of other people to do it with you. And this is how some of the most brilliant businesses were created, just by sharing a personal interest, a personal message. And it's something that you can do for free without any formal training, and you can just get started and you can dare to be great. So I love that you said that. I really wanted to circle back and make that really anchored. Ken, what's on your mind as you hear all of this? I know these concepts aren't new to you, but do you have any specific questions for Brian during this time?
Well, first, the reason why I suggested Brian get in this series is because Brian has been training people to think beyond tragedy for a long time. And he is someone that I look to when times are tough for me, and he always has the simplest answers to what he sees right through my bull. Is really what happens, and he just said, he'll give me one or two words that just like kind of snap me out of it. So, Brian, like one of the things that dawned on me when I was talking to a client of mine in Europe this morning was that all over the world right now we have commonality. We all are suffering exactly the same problem in varying degrees, but there's a real common problem globally for each and every one of us on Earth. And when we all have a common problem, there becomes this chance for opportunity. And it can be an opportunity in a lot of different ways, but my question for you is this: what's the message that you want people with this commonality? What message do you want them to hear about how to deal with what we currently find ourselves in?
And it's a great question. I think the commonality, as you said, what it does is it brings people together, that there's a shared experience now around the world. Somebody in a conversation yesterday, and I'm sure you guys have heard this, they said that this will be this generation's 9/11.
I heard
but
that
I also saw something this morning that made a comment on that and said, you know what, it may be this generation's 9/11, but let's remember September 12th. So what happened following the attacks of September 11, 2001, is that the world shared this common problem now, that we're facing this worldwide issue. But what happened is it brought people together. And while it created some division, perhaps, with people accusing different groups, for a lot of people, it brought them together. I think this is the opportunity. When it brings us together, and we can, the advantage to the world today is that you might be isolated in your office, I might be isolated, my home member's isolated somewhere else, but we use technology to defeat that self-isolation. So we don't have to be isolated like we would have had to been decades ago, where we have no contact.
True. Yep.
I think what's important now is that when you get together with groups of people online or through Skype or through these type of formats, is we can either get together and wallow in woe is me, or we can get together and say, what are we going to do? What can I do to be of service to you? What can I do to help you to get through this? And we can start talking about what are we going to do to get through this and to grow and to continue to work together afterwards to rebuild things. So what you're seeing now is groups of people that may never have been connected before that are now connected. Yep. The key, I think, is that use that connection to start talking about what can we do right now to move us all forward, rather than just wallow in the 24-hour doom and gloom news cycle that the world is going to come to an end. And what can we start doing right now to make things better? And I think if we start to use that commonality, now we can start to break down a lot of these silos that existed before, break down some of these barriers. But we need to keep going back to what's important now. And what's important now is to move forward. What's important now is to look for solutions. So there's a rule number 2 in the 3 rules in Pete Carroll's Win Forever philosophy, which he got from John Wooden, the famous former UCLA coach, which John Wooden had got from his dad. Rule number 2 is no whining, no complaining, no excuses. So if we can embrace rule number 2 and realize that, you know what, there's no value in any of those activities. So let's figure out how we move forward. What can we do right now to support each other? What can we do to make the best of this situation? And what can we do to move forward so that when this is over and the restrictions are lifted, that we're better positioned to grow as a result of this experience?
I have a question for you, Brian. You know, most people, I think, had that state of shock at first, and then they had this burst of, at least the people in my circles, then they had this burst of like being proactive and looking for solutions and leading and doing good. And now all of a sudden, I'm starting to see threads of fear coming in. It's almost like the adrenaline has, lowered perhaps a little bit. I'm not sure. But now I'm seeing like it's time to elevate that back up a little bit. And so I'm wondering, my question for you is, when somebody is home alone, let's say, and all of a sudden that fear just comes up in them, or that overwhelm or the paranoia, what can we do to get control back of our mindset and shift into a winning mindset?
Well, I go back to a couple things. So one of them is a quote from Viktor Frankl, the Austrian neurologist and psychiatrist who was interned in the prison camps, wrote a powerful book called Man's Search for Meaning. And what Viktor Frankl says is there's always a pause between stimulus and response. So the best thing that we can do in that pause is to breathe. So if we take some of this, Mark Devine, who I was listening to an interview with him, former Navy SEAL, teaches a lot of mental preparation stuff. He talks about pause, breathe, think, act. Dr. Daniel Amen, who a lot of people are probably familiar with, talks about asking yourself the question, is this true? So when the fear jumps in, what is it that we're truly afraid of? And is the fear based on reality? So yes, this is certainly different than we've seen before, but those of us that were in business following September 11, 2001, all travel was shut down, the borders were shut down, economy crashed, there was a lot of things happened that, we've come through that. So I think what we need to do when that happens is when we start to feel that fear response, the first thing we need to do is to breathe. Breathing is the simplest and most effective tool that every human being has immediate access to control the physiological, neurophysiological responses to stress in the human mind and the human body. So if you just take a few breaths and then you ask yourself, is this true? What is it that I'm really afraid of? So am I afraid that I'm going to lose my house? Am I afraid that I'm going to end up destitute and living on the street? Well, the reality is I think that there's systems, we're still too early in this, but there's going to be systems in place that you can't have the whole world be homeless. No. They're not going to evict everybody. There's an awful lot of people right now that are out of work, that are not getting a paycheck at all. And many people were living paycheck to paycheck. But there's people like yourself that are taking action, that are saying, let's give to these groups to support what's going on. You're seeing professional sports teams where the athletes, and it's easy for people to say, well, big deal, they're multimillionaires, but they're still kicking money in to support the stadium or the arena staff that are now out of a job, that are not getting a paycheck, those people that work part-time at the games and other things. So I think it goes back to Ken's point, is that because this is a worldwide phenomenon and everybody's in the same boat, then I think what you're going to see is a number of people that will step up to help those that are struggling the most. And we've seen that throughout history. We see that every single day. So I would suggest the first thing that people do is take a number of deep breaths and then ask yourself what's important now. And then ask yourself, is this fear, is this serving me or hurting me? And it's almost always serving or hurting you. Fear will serve you in an immediate threat situation, if there's an attack situation. But when I'm sitting in my home by myself, there's no immediate threat. The fear is the long-term threat. There's no value in worrying about things that have yet to come. So what action can I take right now? What can I do to focus on what's important now? How can I embrace the suck, look for the good, and how can I step up and dare to be great in my own piece of this and be great to serve myself, be great to serve my family, be great to serve those that I have the most immediate influence over. Yeah. And how can I serve as a calming influence on them rather than a precipitator of fear?
Amen. My gosh. To all of you viewing right now, I am going to beg you a favor right now. In the bottom right-hand corner of the screen that you are watching this live stream, there is a button that says Start Watch Party. Please, I am begging you to click that button, which is going to notify the people in your friend circle that this live stream is happening. The advice that Brian just delivered is something that I believe every single human being on this planet should be hearing right now. We have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to share this wisdom with the people in your circles and your friends, and I encourage you to do so. And this really is just still the beginning of this incredible series, because we're going live daily through next week. In fact, in just more than 5 minutes, we have our next panel swooping in. Jen Kim and Wes Schaeffer are coming in. Then we have 2 more sessions after that today. And to get notified when all of these sessions are happening, all you need to do is go up and like the NG Enterprises Facebook page. And there's a little tab that says following, and you can click to see our post first. We're only going to be talking about this live stream series moving forward, so we're not going to bombard you with other information. But as you can see, this is why we're here. That was brilliant advice, Brian. I'm really grateful for that. And Ken, I want to turn it to you here. I know we only have a few minutes left, but may I ask you the same question? Is there anything coming up for you when you imagine people in their homes right now, and people are homeschooling for the first time and their kids are getting sick or their parents are getting sick, and that fear might pop in just for even a couple of minutes? What advice do you have for them in that moment?
I've got a little bit for sure. And I just want to reiterate something Brian said, because it hit me kind of hard when he said it. Is fear only serves you when you're in danger of physical danger, war, famine, whatever it might be. It doesn't serve you sitting in your house worried about your bills or so on. That's when people of leadership feel that, they stand up and get to work. Don't wallow in it. So I just wanted to reiterate what Brian said. There's 3 things that I would say, and that is, forget about current events and focus only on how you can respond. So stand up and figure out how you're going to you can have an impact on. So forget about this and focus on your response. Yep. Forget about what's missing and focus only on what's available. I told this story the other day, and
love that.
I drove through Starbucks the other day. This is just kind of funny. And we all know about toilet paper shortage.
Yes.
It used to be the big thing. And the person at the drive-through asked if I wanted some napkins. And I said, no, I don't, I'm okay. I don't need any napkins. He said, well, you can use it for toilet paper. So focus on what's available, not what is missing.
That is so awesome.
Right? And then forget about complaining. That is only going to lead you down negative ways, and focus on gratitude. Gratitude will bring positivity back to you. It'll get you moving. And like I think about gratitude often, to have people like you guys in my life, my friends, my family, and the fact that, you know, we all have common struggles right now, as I can reach out to anyone in the world right now and have a conversation. So I'm really grateful for that.
I want to piggyback off of that because I had a team meeting this morning, and super grateful that Ken came in to lead a team meeting for my company this morning. And it was such a beautiful sharing. And when I got off of that meeting, I had this little gap before we started our session here today. And I'm channeling Brian. I'm like, what's important now? What should I be focused on? And I went into my email to see if there was anything, you know, really pressing that I needed to attend to, because I'm going to be on the phone all day or on Zoom. And my email was, you know, lots of people needing me, questions, etc. And I took a beat, took a pause, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to record a couple of videos. So I went over to Loom, which is a free video recording app that I use constantly, obsessively, all day long. And it was just a recording my face. And I recorded a few videos that were just me pouring gratitude into somebody. And it made me feel so good to express that. And then I just sent those 3 people their email with their gratitude video. And it just got me in a really good place preparing for now going live with you. I mentioned that because sometimes in our day-to-day, we'll have a thought of a friend or hope somebody's okay, or we'll be grateful for an act. And we experience the gratitude in our mind. And then that's where it stops, because then we run into the next thing. I'm going to encourage you to take a beat and see if you can even just pick up your phone and record a 30-second thank you and start sending off videos to your friends, to your family, to colleagues, to clients, to team, to people that you haven't spoken to in a while. And just maybe just say, hope you're doing well, thinking of you. And maybe that's it. But boy, the impact that that's going to have could be pretty huge. So thank you for saying that, Kim. In our last few minutes before Jen and Wes come into the line, I'm just going to open it up to the room. What else do you feel called to share with people so that they really understand what's in your heart and your mind? Either of you.
Well, one thing I would say is use your time well. So a lot of people have a lot of free time. So I can sit at home and get sucked into the 24-hour news cycle, go down the rabbit hole with a bunch of negative social media, or I can use my time well to watch educational pieces like this, to read a book. If you read for an hour a day, the average person will read 52 nonfiction books in a year. If you read for 10 minutes a day, you'll read 10 nonfiction books in a year. You've got all those books that have backed up, but use your time well. Use your time to learn. There's all kinds of online learning opportunities. So we can sit at home and use the time to worry, fret, and build the fear, or we can use the time productively to focus on the gratitude, as you both talked about, to reach out to people that we know might be in need, just to say, hey, how are you doing? I'm thinking of you. Use the time to educate yourself, grow, learn, develop. But if you ask yourself what's important now is to take the time that some of you have. Some people have no free time because they're working in healthcare or public safety or the first responder world, but other people have a lot of time. Use what time you have well and use it in positive ways.
Awesome. Ken, do you have any parting words? You'll see both of these guys again. Yeah. Ooh, I love these panels because it's like, it's always a different dynamic, always a different discussion. So Ken, what's on your heart and mind?
I'm going to express some gratitude to Brian. Dude, I miss you. It's been a while. I know you have been suffering with some back issues lately, and I think about you often. Crystal's always telling me about you. It's my wife, by the way, guys, who's Brian's a client of and a friend. But I miss you, and I just want to thank you for sharing, because you share all around the world. You impact the lives of a lot of people, and everything that you do and say, you say with intention and power, and I just want you to know I appreciate you. So thank you.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate the kind words and your friendship.
Beautiful. Well, my parting words before we transition is the only way through it is through it. And so tackle this head on, be strong, try to stay positive, reach out for help when you need it, especially up here. When you're struggling up here, reach out for help. And I look forward to seeing you guys again. So I just want to thank you very much for being here.
Thanks, Amber.
My pleasure. Thanks.
All right, guys, we'll see you later.
All right.
Bye. We are in transition. We just had the best session with Brian and Ken. It was really a powerful, powerful session. And I'm equally so excited for this one. So we have Jen Kim back today. Now, hey, we get to see you on video too, which is great.
I hope it hangs.
Yeah. And Wes Schaeffer, the sales whisperer. I thought this would be a really interesting pair up. And I want to kind of set the tone and the intention for what I'm hoping to have everybody experience today. So we're on now for 45 minutes, the three of us. And I really want to open this up to be a discussion. So it doesn't have to be me asking all of the questions. It doesn't have to be, very formal and waiting for the next person to speak. I want it to be like friends talking, sharing, asking questions. What are you doing? What are you doing? This is what I've done. So I just want to set that tone and intention with Wes. Wes, I am definitely interested to see what humor you're going to bring forward, because it's always an adventure with you.
Oh, I'm all business. This is a serious matter.
I have seen
Gracious.
some of your Facebook posts, sir, and I appreciate
Only
them.
some? I'm not, you don't have me seen first. We need to have it. Go ahead and pause it quick.
Laughter
have
is
a
medicine too,
That's true. He made a funny comment about how everybody's scooping up all of the toilet paper, and yet there's like enough water to fill up a small pool with like stacks of water, like Costco or something. And Jen, to give you a shout, really appreciated your post about Candyland. So she was playing Candyland with her 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And my 3-year-old and I are playing Candyland too. And I didn't realize how unbelievably competitive my son is until he'd get like 2 steps ahead and he'd say, I'm winning. And I said,
my son is a savage. I mean, he can't wait. He's hoping I get the double heart so I get backed up, and he cheers when I have to, when I'm losing, and I'm like, who are you, child? And did I not teach you empathy? But okay, I like your competitive nature. I'm not mad about it.
And he like wants me to hit the licorice spot where I lose a turn, and it's like, what am I teaching you? Okay.
Yeah.
Wes, you have 8 kids, is that right?
I only have 7, but I only like 2 of them. But yeah, not 8. Not 8.
Okay, so I have to start here. What is going on in your household? I am imagining, things are heating up over here, and I only have 1. And then I think about people like you, Wes, 7 children. Are you homeschooling? Is it chaos? Is this like just another day? You're used to this? What's it like over there?
Well, fortunately for us, we've actually homeschooled for 12 years.
Oh,
and one is grown. He's out of the house. He's up in San Francisco on lockdown. Yeah, I got 6 at home. 2 are in college. 2 are in high school. So we homeschooled, and then they went to high school. So yeah, those 2 are back. But we've done it for 12 years, so it's all right. Business
as usual, then, it sounds like.
Yeah. So it's it is different for the older kids. But for those that are new to it, my heart goes out to you, because anytime something's new, it's stressful, right? It's so hard. I'm representing my jujitsu school, right? I've been doing this for 3 years, and there's so much true. It equates to life so much. When I started, it was so hard, right? I'm almost 50. We're going to be quarantined when I turn 50. That's just a bunch of crap. All right. But I got, I got booze.
Like it's online birthday party. We'll live stream it. Come on.
I got booze. It's all good. But, so when I started this 7 years ago, I played sports, I played college football. I swim 3 miles across Tampa Bay. I do stuff. Right. But like, I started jujitsu, and it was so dang hard. I was like, this ain't worth it, but I stuck with it, and I'm like, oh, so glad I did. right? So look, this is the new norm, at least for now.
Yep.
So, in the Air Force, we used to sing, they call them Jodies, right? When you're jogging and running, whatever, and marching even. And it's just kind of past the time. But one of them was, ain't no sense in looking down, ain't no paycheck on the ground. So pick your head up because it's here. So find the resources you need and just do what's got to be done. You don't have a choice.
Jen, I don't mean to ignore you, but I have to ask a follow-up question. Wes, what are the conversations like right now between you and your children? I know that I've been confronting myself about that. What's the conversation I'm having with Clay right now? What's the vibe like? Because he's still developing his mindset right now.
How old is he?
He's only 3.
Oh, yeah.
But you have a range. So I'm wondering, are you having open family discussions about this? Or are you just trying to be positive? What's that mood like?
Yeah, I wouldn't be saying anything to a 3-year-old.
No.
Okay.
Okay, good. I feel better now.
My youngest is not quite 6. We're not talking about things with her. Okay. So I have some reservations about what's going on. Nobody has a complete handle on this. Right. But yeah, I'm not going to freak the kids out, but I do tell them, be careful, be cautious. Personally, I'm not worried about this thing as far as a sickness. I'm worried about what is it going to do to the economy.
Same.
Okay. But even so, same thing. It's like, we can't freak out. Freaking out does no good. And another lesson I learned in the military, when the best way to survive an ambush is to run into the ambush. Okay. And it's counterintuitive unless you've trained and drilled for it, because what happens is the enemy, they look around, they're like, where's the worst place for our opponent? Okay, let's set up there. And what they'll do, people don't realize, they don't line up on the side. They line up kind of at an angle in front of you. Because if they go and surround you, they'll shoot each other, right? It's called friendly fire. So they want you to they're going to catch you in the open. Everybody just ducks down. Oh no. And you're just sitting ducks. So you charge the ambush. Okay. Because, a good enemy is trying to catch you in a bad spot. We're caught in a bad spot. Those that hunker down, books and movies and made for TV documentaries will not be made about those people. Okay. You got to lean into this and get after it. And that's, sitting around worrying won't solve any problems. It'll create more of them.
Lean in. I like that. So Jen, you have 2 older children, 1 younger. What's the conversations like? How are you choosing to approach this? Anything in response to anything Wes has said so far?
Yeah, actually, I was looking down at my phone because my oldest daughter just messaged me and said, I have to file for unemployment because I just got officially laid off from my job. She's in college. She's in San Diego.
Oh my God.
And so it's her first experience of that. And here's the thing. On one hand, my mommy was like feeling obviously sympathetic. But my business, Jen, was like, good, here's what you need to do. And it's good that you're experiencing this at 22. And it's good that, and sometimes I know my kids are like, really, Mom, I just want to hear the part where you feel sorry for me and all of that. Yeah. And I'm like, I do feel for you. And here's the thing. If you sit and you mope around, I'm like, babe, this is not going to be your first job. This is at a smoothie place. Okay. You're in college. This is a great experience for you to understand how the government works, how to navigate red tape, get through it, and also see maybe that's not what you want to do with your life, and I'm like, these are all opportunities. So that's the oldest. The middle one actually is homeschooled. So I've had the experience with her, and she just finished and went into college. So she's actually in Hawaii going to school right now. And she's fine. They are hunkered down there. Businesses are being affected, but she's kind of a lone wolf anyway, very creative introvert. She likes hanging out at home. So you didn't have to tell her twice to do that. And then obviously with the 5-year-old, answering the question, have we talked to him about what's happening? He asked us, why am I not at school right now? That was, so we, and explaining, I said, well, there's something going on in the world. And people just need to hang out at home for a little while. And we're gonna definitely like take the curriculum from Mrs. Craig, who's his teacher, who he loves to death. So he's like, I miss my teacher, I miss my friends. And it was just like, look, we're gonna bring it in here, and we're gonna have fun like the next 2 to 3 weeks. One of the things that I've been telling friends is don't put so much pressure on yourself. If you don't have the experience of homeschooling, which I had, like when I did it with my middle daughter, to be honest with you, I hated it. I'm just gonna be like straight up honest. I was like, ugh, hate this. But it was what was best for her. And so I got qualified help to support us. And I'm like, if all of a sudden now you're a homeschool mom and you're a business owner or mom or dad, don't put that pressure on yourself. Like, honestly, I think it's a great time to have fun with your kids the next 2 to 3 weeks and not stress yourself out. That's my opinion. Obviously, people are going to be like, but to keep kids at an academic standard right now with what's going on while we have to keep the lights on, I think that's just a lot of pressure. And I think that's a lot of the stuff that, especially, frankly, women especially, we tend to feel like we need to do all the things. And I'm encouraging my friends to just, if for 2 weeks your kids play Candyland, it's okay. Like, they're not going to be academically impacted. And also, I don't understand this new math and stuff that people do today. So I would actually,
oh my gosh,
you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just like, we would actually ruin them. They'd go back to school and we'd all screw them up. So I think they're safer not learning from us, who were born in the 70s, 60s and 70s kind of thing.
That's so funny. Yep.
Wow. So Jen, something that we addressed Jen yesterday. She's brand business futurist working with Fortune 500 companies. She has an institute out of San Francisco. And I'm constantly referring back to her business Facebook page, because she had a great video on there about how to manage this time. And she started the video by talking about how she had to learn some really hard lessons out of the 2008 recession. And that's why she's in such a stronger position now, because she was in it back then. So Jen, for the people who are in it, and again, I encourage discussion. So Wes, if you have questions for Jen and vice versa, but Jen, people that are here where you were back in 2008, what advice would you give to them? Like, what are a few starting steps to get them thinking in the right track?
Mm-hmm. So I love what Wes said about charging the enemy. I believe that if you try to hide out, if the fear of what's happening right now, you go into one of the 4 fear states, like, what is it? Like flight, flee, faint, and there's another F, I don't know. But if these are the human reactions, and those are normal, fear, flight, it's flight, flee.
I haven't heard this before.
Yeah, actually, I should definitely, like, I just did a live stream on it.
Fight, flight, freeze, and fawn.
There you go. I would call it faint. So fawn and I think faint are the same thing in the way that I've described it. But the point is that if you can just recognize that you're in that and go, okay, because awareness is the big thing right now. Aware that, okay, I feel that way, and I have a responsibility to my livelihood. We're human beings. The reason that we are the top species in the world, we also messed up the world. That's probably why nature's pissed off at us right now. But we have survival instincts, and frankly, without being confronted by inconvenience or something that, like, that happens, like what's happening now, that's where you're going to find out the people who can respond versus react to what's happening. And so, to answer your question about, I am 100% without bypassing so grateful for 2008, because my ego was so big in 2008, because I was such a successful corporate executive that transitioned to a small business that actually was very successful out of the gate, which is not normal. That's an outlier conversation. In fact, marketers and salespeople, which we all are here, will market to the outlier, right? And I'm glad I was an outlier, because I got my butt kicked so hard in 2008. I had no choice but to prepare for this moment right now. And I'm grateful for that. So at the time, of course I wasn't, but now I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad I got whole life insurance. Oh my God, I'm so glad that I squirreled away some money and put, aside 3 months of bunker cash, if you call, I did that because and I know that doesn't help people right now because they're like, well, screw that. We're in the situation where we're scared and we're nervous and we don't have the cash. So what do I do now? So I just want to say that here's the good news. We will get out of this.
Mm-hmm.
We will survive this. Yep. And so that's why I want to say, don't forget that once we're out of it, don't forget to do that because it's going to happen again. Something's going to happen again. Socio-political, economic things are going to happen. And so that is still important. So I just want to add to what you could do right now. So you have to think out of the box. Like it is not business as usual. It's not, the solution is in usually your current clientele. Frankly, it's not in new clientele. It's
okay. Say that again.
Right.
The solution is not necessarily out there. It's in your current clientele.
Correct.
That is so important. I hope everybody just drop like a bomb or a heart or a flame or something down there, because that was a very important point just then.
Yeah. It's like, how to serve them. So now how can you 10x that without overwhelming them? That's the second part, because right now there's also overwhelming everything, right? Not when it comes to health, when it comes to business, when it comes to your relationships. So go to your most trusted source, and each one of us is a trusted source for our people, period. Mm-hmm. Right? Each one of us. And so focus on them and 10x what they need right now, and focus on how they can improve whatever you're teaching them. In my case, obviously we teach small business owners how to build brands. So I'm going, how can your brand stand out right now? And how can we think outside of the box of what you're normally doing? And relying on just automated systems right now is not going to work, right?
Agreed.
You need them, but relying on them at this time is not going to work. So you have to be willing to, things that you've automated, maybe you have to, I'd get on the phone with your 100 best customers or 10 best customers. If you only have 10, I'd get on the phone with every single one of them if they'll talk to you. Yep. And just offer help, advice, and go from there. And then I think the seeds will continue, because here's the other thing. Last thing I want to say. Retention is more important than acquisition, in my opinion, right now. I mean, Wes can definitely, but these are your clients. They need to keep paying you, right? And so that money is what you need to go after first. Keeping the money, not just making new money, but keeping it.
Yep.
And so how can you help them make you still a priority, your business a priority, because you're adding value right now during a time where they need to pay their mortgage. They need to pay their student loan debt. They need to pay for their, whatever. Right. Mm-hmm. And so how can you stay relevant? And to me, that's your focus for now. And that's how you're going to weather this storm.
I love that. And two things that I will add is that last Wednesday, I think it was, gosh, time is so crazy right now. It's like, I have no idea. I think it was last Wednesday though. I got a sense of where this thing was headed. I cleared my schedule and I brought my biggest client on the phone that morning, and we spent 3 hours together. And I just knew, like, this is where I need to be. This is the best use of my time right now. Okay, what's the second best use of my time? So then I got on the next phone call. So I think what she just said about securing your existing clientele is really important, letting them know that you are available. Right? Because if you're super delayed on getting back to them, they're going to think, okay, she's not all in and I need somebody all in right now. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the first things that I did. And then on Sunday, I sent an email out to every single client that I have, and even some clients that aren't active today, but have been even in the past 6 to 8 months. And I let them know that I was here, what to expect. I mean, website wise, marketing wise, book launch wise. And on Friday of this week, I opened up my Zoom room for an hour and I said, we're having a town hall meeting. Anybody, anywhere that wants to come in and just have time with me and open up a dialogue about what's going on, I'm here for you. And they loved that. So if you don't have the capacity to get on the phone with your top 10 or 100 clients, that's another option, is just be available that as much as you can be, and bringing that community together so that they don't feel alone. Those are some of the things that come to mind based on what you said, Jen. Now, Wes's is interesting because he's the sales whisperer. He's been around for a long time. He's had massive influence in the online world, especially. He's out there training sales teams. And I'm curious, Wes, because you've also been through '08. Now you're going through this. And what's happening in the world of sales right now, and what should we be thinking about in our own businesses?
So yeah, I mean, I loved what Jennifer just said. I'm telling clients, if you're going after business right now is the time to go get market share. I might even recommend you call some of your existing clients, call your top 10, call your top 20, call all of them, give them a proactive 10 or 20 or 30% discount. All right. They're going to start dropping. Okay. Yeah. People, they freak out. So the 4 F's, right? So if they're going to be prioritizing what to cut, and again, they'll get into this hunker down mentality, and they think marketing is a nicety, right? And they'll cut it. So if you're in the marketing space, I mean, get in there and proactively reduce things for them. Okay. Maybe even if you can weather it, say, hey, I'm gonna give you a 30-day break, but then they might still cancel. So I'd lean towards a proactive discount. Okay. But then if you've got the funds, now's the time to go after market share. Okay. Because your competition is hunkering down and they need to hear from you. I love what you said about reaching out. That's been the theme really last couple of years. I've told everybody automation is fantastic, but marketers kill everything. They ruin everything. And so there's too much automation. And so doing what does not scale has been the winner in the last couple of years. And it's especially the winner now. People will take your calls right now because they're freaking out. Okay. And they want to hear that voice of reason.
Yep.
And the whole reason that I train 5 and 6 days a week for 2 hours at a time in jujitsu is because I'm not alone. I didn't go to the gym for 2 hours alone, 6 days a week, right? I was just going through the motions, and that's why I was looking for something else, because doing it alone just, they say, all right, you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with somebody. And we're in for a long haul right now. So your customers, they need to hear from you. Yep. And not an automated message. They need to hear from you individually, right? I've used tools like Bonjoro and BombBomb to send messages. So at least they know it is personalized, right? It's not a bulk message. So even something like that, at least it's customized, it's personalized, and, it can take 5 seconds, 10 seconds to send that. And then start reaching out. Okay. So they need to hear from you. It's super important. And, but going back, so your daughter getting laid off, right? I was on unemployment when 2 of my 7 kids were born. Okay. I was laid off from companies despite being over quota. I was in a tech firm starting in 2000, just before the bubble burst. And I held on for 4 years, Wow. I was over quota and laid off. I was with another tech firm, laid off despite being over quota because the company wasn't making it. When my second son was born, I was on unemployment in Mobile, Alabama. I didn't know a soul. I started selling mobile homes in Mobile, Alabama, because I applied for a classified ad, replied to it because it paid $20 a week more than unemployment did. Okay. So, but you're right. When you're going through it, it sucks. When you look back, you're glad you did it. So right now is a rough time for a lot of people. But it will pass, and I was living in Austin in 2000. And so when the market crashed, the NASDAQ, the whole .com bubble, Dell's headquarters was there. And I was just on the north side of Austin, right, literally in the shadow of Dell. So we had a precursor to '08 back around 2002.
Yeah.
And I remember I was buying houses and rehabbing houses on the side. And there was a lady, her house she was behind on her mortgage. And we literally went and knocked on her door. And she said, I have enough cash, for 6 months or a year. I forget what she said. And she thought it would turn around. And the advice I always gave people back then, it's true now, is it's better to have cash and bad credit than no cash
Yes.
and bad credit.
Yes. I have to
Okay?
kind of like, yes.
So hold on to your cash. If this thing lasts a long time, okay, like '08 lasted a long time, it had deep ramifications. Hold on to your cash. We've been fed a line, okay, with credit and your credit score and all this stuff. Cash is king. Okay, if you have to start making decisions, go ahead and be late on some bills. Hold on to your cash. Okay, that's so don't, because this woman, because I tracked that house, she eventually lost her house. So she lost her entire 401k and her house. So she had no cash, no retirement, and bad credit, and no house. Okay, if she'd have let me buy her house from her, she would have had a little bit of bad credit and cash.
I literally had the same thing happen to me. This is exactly it. And for 2 years, this is one of the lessons that I tell people. I had this, what I call Asian shame. I have an Asian mother. And so I was really like nervous to have my credit go bad, because I was taught my whole life that if my credit goes bad, even though my retail businesses were tanking, they were gone. They'd been taken away by the bank. But I was like, oh my God, I can't file for bankruptcy. That is the most shameful mark on my life, and I can't do it. And so for a year and a half, I struggled to pay these bills that if I would have just handled and given up my ego and my fear and held onto my cash, I would have been in a much better shape in 2009. But I struggled for 2 years because I had no money and no credit. And I tell people all the time, everything that Wes is saying, please listen, because as we go through this, you don't know it until you do it. And then if you don't listen to people who've actually been through it, but you listen to other people, like I love what I said is like marketers screwing things up. I'm a marketer and 1,000,000% agree with that. This automated lifestyle, this online lifestyle, again, there are benefits, but there are trade-offs to that. And it's making people believe, okay, I can just auto-magically make my money through these funnels. And I mean, like out carrying your competition right now is like the priority, and cash, holding on to your cash, but paying for the things that you do need to do, like Wes said, on marketing yourself, like your business, continuing to, at least with what you have a budget to be relevant, to be resonant, to have people still see you and hear you, so that when we get through this, they'll pay you more. But it's so critical. And I'm so glad that we're on the panel together, Wes, because it's so cool to meet another person who frankly has been in the game. I tell people all the time, I'm not a spring chicken, I'm a seasoned chicken. I've been around these parts for a while, been pecking at the fence for a while. So, and I think people like us really need to be heard right now, because the new entrepreneur, the new or millionaire or whatever, they're going to get effed if they don't listen to seasoned chickens like us. I didn't mean to put you in the same category, Wes, if you don't want to call it chicken. But
honestly, this is why I got the calling. I felt it in my gut instinct last week. And I just thought, I know way too many amazing people, and we're all trying to do like our own thing. We're getting our message out to our own Facebook page or whatever. It's not enough. Right? So by bringing all of these amazing people together, that's what the Elevate series is. We do have a question from somebody, which I will ask you guys in just a second, but I want to beg and urge every single viewer to hit, there's a little button at the top or the bottom right-hand corner of the screen that says Start Watch Party. Please click that button. Please click the button, because that's going to notify your friends that we are having this discussion right now. The advice that Jen and Wes just gave about cash versus credit, I want every single person on the planet to please hear that message, but we can't get it out alone. We need your help in sharing this message. So please start a watch party. Tell your friends and family about this series. We're going live through the end of next week. We even have John Berghoff coming in today at 2 p.m. Eastern. We have Annie Lee coming in today at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. We have multiple panels and discussions moving forward. So just need your help. I have a question for you, Jen, then we could open it up to Lee Richard's question, and it circles back to the financial question. I know you're a big believer in whole life insurance, which is different than term, because with whole, you can borrow against it. It's more expensive to have whole life insurance, right? So I think you mentioned about $700 a month for yours. If people are in a position where they could make that switch, would you, and I know that this is like, she's not a financial expert. Let's say you can't hold her liable, all the disclaimers. But if it were you, let's put it that way. If it were you and you had term and you were in a position where you could go whole, would you make that move right now, or would you stay at term and then keep?
1,000,000%, yes. If you have the opportunity, yes. My biggest mistake, again, I was so stupid. I thought I knew everything. I was really good at sales and marketing, but I wasn't good at financing. I was good at making money, but not keeping money. And if that's you, this was in 2008. I didn't know how to keep my money and grow my money. I knew how to make money. And so right now, if you have cash reserves and you have term life insurance, in my opinion,
for you,
one of the biggest decisions I made that helped me have cash reserves right now is to transfer all my term life into whole life. And now I have cash available to me that I can borrow against. That's mine. Nobody else can touch it. It's protected. And also the payout's actually bigger when you leave this earth, if you're willing to spend a little bit more. A lot of people get term life, and I understand why, because I came from the corporate world before I became an entrepreneur. So I was kind of trained, you should get term life insurance through your company. And I think that's good. If you don't have any insurance, it's good to at least get term. So I just want to say that I'm not against term, but if you're an entrepreneur, I believe in whole life versus term life. Term life is good if you have a job. And if you can keep your job and you don't get laid off like Wes. And actually, I had the same situation, Wes, in 2002. And so it's so cool to have these. I was in the San Francisco Bay Area at the time, and I got laid off right after the first bust, during that time. And I had to go on unemployment when I had my second child. I had to get through that as well. And so you figure it out if you're scrappy. But I will say that I learned, but at the time I had term, and then when I lost my job, it goes away too. If you don't transfer it to an outside party, that's where a lot of people have been contributing money to their term life insurance through their job, and they don't do the proper changes after. I would transfer it to either a Roth IRA or a whole life policy. Just generally speaking, again, you should speak to your financial advisor. But
and we do have a gentleman named Thomas coming in tomorrow morning on a panel. Just to confirm the time, it's at 2 p.m. Eastern tomorrow with Thomas, who is a financial expert. And we will be having that conversation tomorrow in the Elevate series.
I just want to say one more thing is entrepreneurs need to behave differently than people who work in the way that you manage your financial future is very different for us. And so definitely speak to somebody who has this expertise for entrepreneurs and business owners, not necessarily corporations, because it's a very different mindset.
Awesome. So Lee Richer is somebody who's watching. We've got lots of great people watching. Thank you for everybody who started a watch party. I really appreciate that. I know my team is really active in the comments right now. We are dropping resources where you can donate to COVID and economic relief organizations as well. So I just want to remind you that in exchange for our time and value right now, we are encouraging you to make donations and help those in need. So Lee Richer asks us all, what are the top 3 things that you're doing for your business and for yourself today, right after this panel? What are the things that we are doing for our business and ourselves today, right after this panel? We could just popcorn it too. I know that one of the things that's on my list the minute I'm done with work today is to figure out homeschooling my child. Clay this morning, this is his first day home from school. And wouldn't you know it, he has a runny nose, he's sneezing, he's not feeling well. And it's like and so I've got some paperwork from my school about homeschooling, and in total transparency, it overwhelms me. I know I'm going to figure it out because I know who I am. I know that I thrive in crisis. I know how to show up for my family, and I will figure it out. But in this exact moment, I'm a little overwhelmed thinking about it. So that's definitely really top of mind for me in terms of my family. Also, checking in with my parents. So my parents are divorced, and they're in a different state than I am, and they have different situations that in one way or another, I'm just mindful of that. And I just want to check in with them on a regular basis and make sure that they're doing well. And is there anything that I can do to support them? And my sister too. So I mean, honestly, I have to tell you, Lee, that following these panels, I go straight to my team and I ask them how they're doing. We had a team meeting this morning where we just openly shared our feelings. We reminded each other about how to focus and stay proactive. I then check in with my clients. I make sure that they feel that I am 100% here for them. And here's another thing that I feel called to share is that I have a priority to make each client feel like they are my only client. I am not talking about, oh, I'm so busy, or I was just busy working on this other project. You would never in a million years hear me say that, because when I am on the phone with you, you are my only client. You are my only priority in the world in that moment. My clients really appreciate that. So I'm checking in with my team. I'm checking in with my clients. I'm checking in with my family. And then after Clay goes to bed, I'm like, okay, homeschooling, time to tackle that one. So that's what's on my mind, Lee. What about you guys?
Take a nap.
Take a nap. What are those? No.
I took a nap yesterday. I was speaking at my Chamber of Commerce at 3 and I was tired. I took a nap. We try to do too much, and so I'm not being facetious, right? You gotta learn how to chill out. We're going to take on too much. Like all these places are doing free stuff. It's fantastic. Digital marketer, you can do everything for free. Look, if you need that, go take their free course. I just read the New York Public Library. You can download over 300,000 books for free. Disney's giving Frozen 2 for free. You can watch the Metropolitan Opera every week now for the next 8 weeks. And I've actually put it on my calendar. So I'm watching some opera. Okay. So, but you can overdo these things. There's not very much you need to do. I'll take it back to jujitsu, right? We always make a joke. Oh, hey, I've been watching YouTube. I'm gonna do these fancy moves. The guy I train with, he's 54 years old. He's trained for 35 years. He was the #1 in the world in his weight class and division 2 years ago. And it's all simple moves. Because at the moment, and this goes way back, and I forget who wrote it, one of these great generals and folks, but when the pressure is on, you do not rise to the occasion. You revert back to the level of your training. Okay. Everybody thinks they're going to be perfect. They're going to, I'm going to be the sharpshooter that shoots the bad guy when it's holding all the hostages. No, you won't. You're going to shoot all the hostages. You're going to miss the bad guy because you didn't train for that scenario. So if you think you're going to perform at optimum levels, you're wrong. You got to cut this down to the basics, the fundamentals. And so if you're overwhelmed, and most people are right now, because all this is new, go take a nap. Okay. The answer will come to you. My dad always says, decisions usually will become obvious. Okay. So if you're freaking out and you're overwhelmed, go take a nap. Don't go drink. Don't go surf Facebook. Go take a nap. Okay. You got to we don't need brainstorming. We need brain stilling. If you're freaking out, you got to calm down. Okay. And you'll start to know what you got to do. And I guarantee what you need to do is a lot less than what you think you got to do. And let that kind of come to you. And if you're not used to working on a schedule, have a schedule. I've been doing this a long time, so it's okay. But, the old adage, pay yourself first, that applies to your schedule as well. Like on my Google Calendar, I have personal things, fitness things, family things. I put those in first. So when a prospect or customer wants to meet, I'm like, let me send you my link, my calendar link. They're like, oh, I wanted to meet at noon. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm booked. I'm booked for 2 hours of jujitsu, right? But that's a meeting. I'm paying myself first. So you got to put your life in and then squeeze work in. We've always done the opposite. Everyone's worked, and try to squeeze some life in. Well, remember back on December 31st, 2019, you said, "Dear journal, dear diary, hello, God. I want to lose weight. I want to spend more time with my children, right? I want to have more family time. I want to have more downtime. I want to read more books." Shazam! You got your wish.
Oh my gosh. That's
God just answered all your prayers.
So true. So true. That's really a powerful reminder. I know last night I went to bed and, I felt anxiety for really one of the first times, because I've been pretty calm through this. I've been in leader mode, but last night it hit me. And it was because I didn't know if my husband, who's a firefighter, I didn't know that if he was going to come home this morning or not. I didn't know if he was going to be quarantined or what was going to happen. So I was just kind of feeling that. And my mind was going crazy. And, you have a tendency to like pick up Facebook or try to do something to distract, and it wasn't working. And so then what I did is I don't know if you guys have this, the Calm app. I opened up the Calm app and there's just this beautiful like meditative sound that I clicked on, and I just allowed the thoughts to just pass and let my mind calm back down. And I was out like a light, had the great sleep. So you have to protect your mind. You're so overstimulated right now too. So you got to protect that. Jen, and what would you say? I know we're winding down here, about 4 minutes away. What are 3 things that you're going to be doing for your business and yourself today following this panel?
I just wanted to add, there's another app I'm using besides Calm that's really good. It's called the White Noise app.
Oh, yes.
And if you have it, it's really cool. I like take an app and put on, of all the noises, I like the brown noise sound the most. They're colors.
Yeah.
And you can try them out.
I heard brown.
Yeah. So the brown noise is really, for me, soothing.
Awesome.
So what am I going to do after this? All the things that you all said, basically plussing all of them.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I'm focusing on, and I'm going to touch back to what Wes said earlier around getting market share. I think one of the easiest things that you can do as a business owner right now is be featured in the media. And I'm being a local resource, especially for the media, because they need content. And of course it's kind of like it's a benefits and trade-offs conversation, obviously, because you don't want to continue to accentuate the things that people shouldn't be worried about. But if you know that you have something to add that can help locally, especially, I think it's a really good move, and it keeps you relevant and resonant, and it's free generally. You know what I mean? You can pitch yourself using Haro, Haro.
Yes.
Right now it's like peppered. And by the way, I just want you to know that generally speaking, I don't focus on media the rest of the year. But when I thought about how can our company help more people, let them know that we are available to help. And also, frankly, what I'm teaching our people in our institute to do right now is like focus on media. And how can your individual expertise, like we have a client who, I think I mentioned this yesterday, Schaeffer, she has this company called Social Bridge where she helps elderly people get what they need. Now, what a perfect time for people to know about Schaeffer's organization, right? Given this moment. And I said to Schaeffer, you need to actually tell the news people you're available to help your local zip code. And she did. And now she's gotten featured 3 times in the last 24 hours. And this is great for her business. And also she's helping. And so our company is doing that where it makes sense. I don't want to send out trash messages right now. I'm focusing on like giving messages around exactly what we're talking about right here too, Amber, that you're doing so lovely, so wonderfully here is like, say messaging. What can a small business do during these times? If I can help in that way and teach somebody from my experience, I'm here and available for the press to talk to. And so obviously it elevates my expertise, my personal brand, but also, and you can use it as an asset going forward. So that's where we're focusing in terms of, besides focusing on our people, which is what you said earlier. And then obviously the home team, like I said, everything you said about the home team. And then number one is like, I'm the home team, like my personal vessel, my body, this is home for me. I need to take care of it. And so I'm still managing that. And I think successful people do that anyway. They learn that if they don't, we only have one body, and if there's an expiration on it. And so we have to take care of it. And if we want to keep serving as long as we can. So that's what I'm doing.
I am nothing but beyond grateful for both of you. Donating your time like this. I mean, you have a lot on your plates right now, just like everybody else. But showing up and being a leader, being in service right now, and staying cool, calm, and collected, focused, and then focused on giving that content outward and lifting other people up, elevating. I'm proud of you, if I can say that. I'm grateful for you. I feel like this was one of the more powerful conversations that we've had on the Elevate series so far. They've all been so great and very different. Each session has been so different from the next, which I love. We are taking a 15-minute break. I'm going to leave the live stream on because many of you have started watch parties, and I don't want to disconnect that feed, because next, in 15 minutes at the top of the hour, we have one of the world's leading experts in appreciative inquiry coming in, John Berghoff, who runs Exchange. And he is working with some of the world's biggest organizations and helping them to transition from live in-person events into virtual. Now, John's unique ability is he helps to choreograph conversations, tap into the collective wisdom of communities, and allow everybody to work in harmony together to co-create toward a common goal or a future. It is brilliant work. And I'm telling you, you need to clear your plate to come back in 15 minutes to watch John Berghoff. Help me start the watch parties, y'all. Wes and Jen, thank you again so much for being here. And I really wish you the best as you move on throughout the rest of your day. Thanks again.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye, guys. So I'm going to share my screen here for a moment to say that we will be right back. And I just really want you guys to stay in the room here while we do that. And we'll be right back. All right. I know we have a couple of viewers that are grabbing lunch, you're grabbing snacks, you're taking potty breaks. I am getting started here a couple minutes early. We have John Berghoff, one of my favorite people, coming onto the line next here in just a few minutes. John Berghoff is somebody that I knew back in my Cutco cutlery days. So when I was 18 years old, I'm originally from Tucson, Arizona. I was going to college at the University of Arizona for graphic design and marketing. And I was looking for a job, and Cutco Cutlery was the company that I jumped in with. And before that happened, I had no communication skills. I had no confidence. I was really introverted, didn't have a lot of friends, like not the person that you see today. But when I went into that organization, I sort of came alive. I really discovered my capabilities, my potential. And that organization is so remarkable at developing leadership. And so back at the time when I was in Cutco, John Berghoff, Hal Elrod, John Rulin, Dan Cassetta, John Vroman, like there's a lot of people, I call them my Cutco family. And we were all back in Cutco during that time. And some of them still are integrated within the organization as well. Most have moved on to become very powerful leaders in the world. John Berghoff is no different. And before he comes on in a couple of minutes, I just want to reiterate to all of you who are coming in and viewing how much it means to me to have you here. I am taking time away from my own business. NG Enterprises, for those of you that don't know, no guts, no glory is what it stands for. It's a phrase that my mom used to say to me all the time growing up. And I just thought, what better thing to remember every day as I face my fears and I show up in my business. And then my clients ended up loving the name and now they adopt it too. But for the past more than a decade, we've built nearly 1,000 websites. We support people with internet marketing, really rooted in developing personal connection. So really high integrity marketing. And then we also do these bestseller book launches. And I have a team of about 15 people that work with me and service our clients together. And I am pulling myself out of that organization to deliver this Elevate series to you, a series of live streams over the next week and a half now, designed to help you both mentally and professionally during this time. So I've taken friends from so many different networks, so many different places. I mean, we had Brian Willis this morning, who's a change catalyst in law enforcement. Tomorrow we have somebody in finances. We have wellness experts. We have so many different people from different industries all coming together with a common goal of serving you. And in exchange for our time and value, we are requesting that you really rise to the occasion, you elevate, and we encourage you to give back to communities, those in need, by donating to COVID relief organizations, economic relief organizations. Our team is in the comments below and letting you know what organizations we have been researching and vetting. I actually have a list of multiple different opportunities and ideas, but thanks to Alexa Snell on my team, you know, she's such a go-giver, to quote Bob Berg, who will be on the series next week. And she suggests that you go into your local community and what food shelters could you donate to? We had a team meeting this morning and she was talking about how she was buying gift certificates from local businesses, like a local bakery or a local coffee shop. And she is buying these gift certificates to help those businesses that are now going to be suffering. And now, of course, she can use that when the store opens back up again. But what can you be doing inside of your local community? And she was talking about how she really has this urge to give back in a much bigger way. And so she's looking at what else can she be doing right now at this time in her community. And it was a really interesting discussion that we had on our team meeting this morning, because the team wasn't so much concerned about their own safety in terms of the coronavirus, but they were feeling like, I'm young, I'm healthy, et cetera. So now I'm just feeling like a little bit of guilt comes in, and I share that because maybe you're experiencing something similar. And she, along with other team members, are wondering, what can I be doing to help those who are less fortunate than I am? And so it does bring about a really interesting thought. I know that, being the wife of a first responder means that we secured our home life, our situation, sometimes before other people did. And part of that was out of duty and out of service, and just thinking ahead to what happens if our neighbors get into trouble, and are we in a position that we can then reach out to that community and help them as well. So it's not just about even ourselves. Thinking outside of that, I think, is really important too. And you got to love live streaming, because I am texting John Berghoff. I think he might be having a couple of issues getting into the Zoom room, but even this actually reminds me, I was doing a live webinar. I think this was about 3 years ago. And it was like a launch webinar. I was launching this online academy. And so I'm on this live webinar, and I made it so complicated on myself, because sometimes during the webinar, I had the face to the camera. Other times I was sharing my screen. And this was actually, I think, was it longer than 3 years ago, because I remember I was using Google Hangouts via YouTube live events, if you guys even know what that is. I was not using Zoom or something more modern like Webinar Jam. Anyway, so I'm in the middle of this launch. It's a live webinar. There's lots of people on the line. And I was about to unveil this academy online that I had created. And I was trying to do this tricky maneuver where I was going from face to camera into sharing my screen so I could show the back end of the membership. And my screen froze, like the technology failed me completely, and I couldn't share my screen. Well, hello, that was like the next half of my webinar. What was I going to do if I wasn't going to show the back end of the academy? All of this to say, you as a leader, you want to be quick to think on your feet in that time. So what I did is I actually picked up my webcam and I flipped it over to show my screen, and I just kept rolling with it. And I said, you know what, guys, for those of you watching, this is what you do when you are live and you don't know what else to do. You just roll with the punches, you get creative, and you keep going. And I didn't lose my cool at all. And you know what? First of all, I had a 74% close on that webinar. 74% close on that webinar. And by the way, for those of you who are new and you don't really know about the online world, on average, you're getting maybe a 30% view. So I had a 30% close. I had a 74% close. And after that, I got this slew of comments of people just saying how grateful they were to see how I didn't freak out in that moment, just like I'm not right now. John is now on the line. John,
hello.
You gave me the opportunity to share a really great story, so thank you for that. And I mentioned that you had some
you're so welcome.
trouble connecting, and I did introduce you, talked about Cutco and exchange and choreographing conversations. I talked about how we are here today to talk about the work that you're doing with some of the biggest brands and companies in the world as they rapidly transition into a virtual environment. And we do have a hard stop in 25 minutes. And I want to give you as much of the floor. Like, if I don't say another word for 25 minutes, I'd be okay with that. But I'm happy to answer your questions for you too, because what John is about to share is so important. Therefore, everybody watching, do me a big favor. And at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, click the button that says Start Watch Party. Because what that is going to do is going to notify your friends and family, because they need to know this information about how to transition into a virtual environment. So please help me start the watch party. John, you have the floor. Tell us what you're up to, man, because it is important work.
Yeah, I'm happy to, Amber. Really good to be here. I don't know if anyone is watching live, if they're chatting or post a question, I think I could see it. But
we have
yes.
Lots of people watching live. I do have the ability for them to post questions, and Julie is on standby here in my Telegram app telling me what questions come in. So I'll let you know.
Cool. So I want to speak to 3 different people for a second. And thank you, Amber, for the opportunity to speak to anybody. Number one is if you are a leader of a community or you host events, and you had an event or a meeting planned in the next 1 to 6 months, I have something very important to share with you. Now that might not be you, if you lead a team, a group, a community of any kind, type, size, or shape, I want to share with you something that's very, very important. Or if you consider yourselves a coach, a teacher, a change agent, and you want to find a way to help, I think the same message is going to be really helpful. So I just wanted to identify, Amber, that these are the folks that I really want to speak to right now, for some important reasons. So do you want me to share why or go from here? You tell me.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I don't even want to waste the space. I just want you to go for it.
Cool. Yeah, and I know we got just a few minutes, and that's cool. So here's a little backstory. I represent a network of facilitators and an organization and also a methodology, all by the name of Exchange. And Exchange is it's a multidisciplinary ability to unlock collective wisdom. And what's really interesting is that in the last week, our world we're all going through a forced evolution in some really interesting ways. And what we're noticing is that a lot of different professionals are needing to move what they were doing from in-person to online. Now, here's what the danger in all of this. The danger is what a lot of people were doing in person was already not working. Nobody ever liked going to meetings. And a lot of large events were still being run with methods that we consider to be in need of a real evolutionary leap. And the danger, Seth Godin wrote about this yesterday, is that a lot of well-intentioned but poorly designed ways of leading groups are about to move online, and they're about to make something bad get worse. And what people need right now is they need to be served, and they're going to have to be served through these types of online platforms. And we have to understand that there's actually solutions for communities to get stronger and healthier. And the solution is not just let's all get on a Zoom. That'll actually backfire. There are ways for communities to get stronger and healthier. There are ways for teams to come together like they never have before. There's ways for learning and crowdsourcing of wisdom to not just be passive, but to be active and engaging and to connect people to each other. There's ways to do this. And if we don't leverage these ways, then all of our efforts to move everything we were doing in person to online are going to be well-intentioned, but could miss the mark and make a bad situation even worse. So we at Exchange for years have been specialized in how do you unlock collective wisdom by designing the questions and the conversations that allow people to come alive for a lot of different reasons and in a lot of different ways. And I've been up literally through the night, the last 5 nights, meeting with and coaching privately leaders of major global movements who had 500,000 person events, cruise ships filled with 600 people, major gatherings that they kind of built themselves on the power of what's possible in person. Mm-hmm. And here's what's exciting. It is possible with the right tools and the right approach, and I'll share everything I can in our remaining time. It is possible to enable things to happen online that I and our own community up until a week ago, we've literally had to change our beliefs and literally buy into a whole new religion overnight, because we didn't actually think all of our stuff worked online. We were forced to convert some in-person mastermind retreats overnight. And we've just completed a 4-day virtual retreat. We've been coaching people who in real time are using our method, reporting back saying, here's what's working. And we're learning a lot. So the good news in this is this kind of golden era is going to be ushered in, where we're actually finding all these innovations. And the irony is the very thing that was causing distraction and isolation and disconnection that we love to blame, which was technology, it's now the only solution we have.
Isn't that wild?
It is wild. It is wild. Yeah. Yeah. So, that's kind of our backstory. And we're working on putting together some trainings to just give away to the world, where we just give out our playbooks. Like, hey, look, if you lead a group, a team, a community, you have to figure out very quickly how to enable people to connect with each other the way that your brain thinks we only could have done it in a room. So Amber, where do you want to go from here? Have I sparked any questions for you?
Yeah, I want you to use me as a case study for a minute, maybe. So I had a 2-day event called Author Up Live for 50 authors. It's happening next Monday, Tuesday. Okay, so just about a week away.
Yeah.
And we decided to go virtual with it, of course. So we've restructured our agenda to have shorter segments, more breaks. We have people breaking where we are doing it in a Zoom room. So I'm curious what your comment about Zoom might backfire. We are going to be doing some small groups where you can have breakouts in the room for discussion, and then come back and one leader can say what the takeaway is, what they learned. We do have a lot of networking components baked in, both in a Facebook group leading into the event, lots of activity in there. But then we're also having like a Sunday night before we kick off, we're going to have like an online mixer where it's like, bring a glass of wine and let's just hang out Sunday night. So we're trying to like build up the rapport before we get into this 2-day event. Our event got shorter. And so any wisdom that you can share to make sure that I'm hitting my marks at that event on Monday and Tuesday?
Yeah, I'm going to talk at 1.5 speed, and I'm just going to give you a case study of one way we just did this. Yeah. So first of all, what I'm hearing, you're already on the right track of you got to have shorter segments, maybe fewer segments. You got to have more breaks or bigger breaks. You can't keep people in front of a screen. So, and Zoom is the platform we would recommend right now. It's just what we do on Zoom.
Oh, cool.
So here's a couple recommendations. One is, it's perfectly fine if you have a training where, so let me ask you, what mixture of this event in its current form now is information that you need to passively share versus time where they're connecting with each other or reflecting or working? Do you have a sense of that at all?
Probably 60-40, 60 into us speaking. Just off the cuff, that's my instinct.
Yeah. So I would immediately just revisit your beliefs around how much time you should be spending passively sharing information. Number one, the tolerance for that, looking at a screen, is tricky. Number two, if you're gonna, and see, this is where everything we did in person now applies online, and we're actually realizing even more so. If you've got a lot of passive information sharing, don't wait till people are all giving you their attention at the same time for that. Give them that now. Send that to them now. Don't take people's attention when they're in a group. Take as little as you need for the passive. Give them that now. You don't need to wait till you have them captive there. So here's a couple thoughts. One is, in a crisis time, anybody who's in a training business or a convening of any type of group, we have to pivot certain activities or experiences to make sure that we're speaking to the voices that are loudest in their heads right now, which are the ones that need to be spoken with. So let me give you an example. We had a virtual mastermind retreat with speakers and conversational things and comedy shows and dinners, and we just finished converting the whole thing online. It worked phenomenally. And here's some things we did and where we pivoted because of the current crisis. So the opening of the retreat, the opening ceremony was 100% them connecting with each other. Now, even if you're doing a training, you might still want to consider doing this because this was true in person, it's true online. You want people to learn that you want them to feel psychologically safe around those who they're in that learning environment with. Because if you're going to make your learning active versus passive, it means at some point they better be turning to each other in pairs or small groups or medium-sized groups, working with each other. If you want people to get open and vulnerable quickly, then you've got to create psychological safety by having connection and inclusion early, immediately when people come into the learning room. So don't start by talking at people and sharing information. That's what people used to do in the room, and they're going to start doing online, and it's bad. Start by putting them in small groups or even pairs with each other, and give them questions and conversational choreographies that serve the current moment, and also serve the goal of why they were coming to you in the first place, but serve the bigger transcendent purpose of creating bonding, community, safety, belonging, and acceptance before you bust into all the training stuff. Because if you don't, it feels tone deaf right now. It always feels, Henry Ford used to say, if you asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. I'm describing cars, and most people were still riding horses in person, and they're going to bring those online. It's just going to get worse. So the way to open it is put them in small groups. And here's one example. Give them a question. And one question could be, think of a time in your life where you were resilient, and prepare to share a story with another person or interview each other. And when you share these stories of resilience, interview each other and ask each other, what could we learn from that story that could be applied right now? Or what superpowers did you bring from that moment in the past that maybe you've lost connection with that you need right now more than ever before? You got to think about, what do people need in the present moment in a crisis? Because in a crisis, no one cares about the future. We got to figure out, not only tactically, but psychologically, what do we need right now? And resilience is just one example, right? So that's literally how we opened a retreat last week. We put them in small groups. They shared stories with each other. And then we had them actually crowdsource lessons and strategies from their prior moments of resilience. They actually presented to each other in groups in the opening 75 minutes. That's how we started, where people tap into their own wisdom of resilience, share it with each other, study it, create a crowdsource list and share it with with the whole group after they went into breakouts. And then you could do some training after that. That's just an example of something that's different from what most people are thinking of doing in a training.
100%.
How
many people in a small group? How many people do you want in a small group?
Well, the configuration depends on the different types of activities. So I'll give you another example. If you're running a training, by the way, what I would encourage is you might teach a topic, have them reflect or write or answer a question in response to what you just taught. Right? What's the topic, by the way?
How to market and launch your book.
So give me an example of one teaching module you're going to do, like one obvious topic.
I'm going to be telling authors how they can be monetizing before the launch, during it, and after. And that happens to be a topic that a lot of authors really want to learn about, because authors by nature really aren't monetizing at all. So,
okay, cool. So I'm guessing one of the things you're going to have them think about is either why they're getting into this in the first place, or who it is that they want to serve, or what are the mechanisms for monetizing, right?
Yep.
So those are all possible questions that at some point you're going to present to them.
Yep.
But to make sure the learning goes from passive to active, pause, stream the music in, give them 2 minutes, have them write their answers down, then toss them into either pairs or groups of 3 or 4, share their answers with each other, pull them back into the main room and say, how did that go? What'd you learn? What'd you talk about? You'll be blown away at that 3-step active learning cycle. What that does, not only in deepening their learning, because they hear how others approach that topic question, but they're continuing to stimulate the safety in the group. Because in 2s or 3s or 4s, they feel very open to share. They have no choice. If there's just 2 of us here, how awkward would it be if I just didn't say anything, right? But when you've got 10, 20, 30, 100 people on the Zoom, you don't have that safety for people to just jump in, at least not if you haven't nurtured it in those smaller groups. So if I was doing your training, I mean, every chance you can, move them in and out of those small groups. And every time, let Zoom randomize it. So new people. The sooner all eyes connect to all eyes, it's true in person, it's true online. The sooner you've woven the sacred geometry of connection in a group where people feel absolutely safe, because the more humans connect with each other, the more they realize I can speak here, I can share, I can take risks, I can be vulnerable. So that's an example.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Guys, for those of you watching, first of all, questions, drop them in the comments. Julie will let me know what they are, and we can ask John in our last few minutes here. So that's number 1, ask your questions. Number 2, please share this video, start a watch party, share it on your feed. We've got to let more people know about who John is and the important work that he's doing in the world. And we will have the replay available, because what he just shared is so good that I want you to go back, watch it again, and take a bunch of notes. Okay. So John, what kind of conversations are you having internally in your own conversations in your own work, or that you're bringing forward to your other clients that you feel is really important to get out right now and let people know about?
Oh, there's a lot. And
there's a lot.
It's been through the night. So, I mean, I'll start within and then I'll go out. Internally, one of the things I'm reflecting on is how in this moment do I need to be showing up for our team at Exchange?
Yes.
How do we, and how do I model that? And then how do we show up for our members? And how do we put on hold? We have about 300 members from 25 countries. And these are, from doctors and professors to heads of global movements to CEOs of major companies to innovative small entrepreneurs and even educators. It's a very diverse group who go through our certification. And then we use our own methodology to continually crowdsource. In fact, while you and I speak, Dr. Dan Diamond, who brought our work into Seattle Children's Hospital a few months ago, is teaching our whole community what he did. So it's a self-governed, self-managed, learning community. And I'm asking, how do we make sure that we're giving to our community right now everything that we're doing with our large clients that we have to do to serve them? Because we have major events that were supposed to happen in New Zealand, in Liverpool, in South America, and Europe, literally all in the next 3 months. And so as we're having to help these we were supposed to facilitate the largest convening in the name of suicide prevention. The Zero Suicide Summit in Liverpool is supposed to happen in May. 400 or 500 of the top scientists to solve a big problem. And it was going to be a design up at the Liverpool Soccer Club. It was going to be cool. And now we're scrambling to figure out how to do something that was very complicated in person online. And, we have that times like 10 right now for our own clients, but then our 300 community members have 1,000 of those that they're trying to solve. So what we're doing is we're asking, how do we stop what we were doing as a business to serve our members? And with a blank canvas, say, what do they need right now?
Exactly.
Because if it's doing anything other than serving what they need right now, then it's tone deaf.
Yes.
It's a waste of everybody's time.
Yes.
And so we're building prototypes and tools, and then we're giving them away as fast as we can because we're an open source internal community. So that's kind of what we're doing internally. And, really what we're doing, I'll give you an example. On Friday, I'm coaching, I was about to say privately, but it's interesting because it won't be private, but I'm coaching 2 heads of major global movements who most people would have heard of their names in the communities. And I'm doing it inside of our network where our entire membership base will be able to watch the coaching so that there's no delay between them getting to see how am I helping.
Oh my God, I love that.
And how can they, so what I'm doing is I'm taking all of our own clients and I'm asking everything that we're doing to help you right now, can it be open source on a live Zoom where any of our members can watch? And it's not uncommon where we'll have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 people just sitting there watching us try and figure out with our clients how to solve problems. So that's-
Is that the email that just went out today?
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't had a chance to watch it, but oh my gosh, hands down, we are going to make sure that happens. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. And then, with our clients externally, we're trying to help them to understand that, that if you're bringing things there's a crazy opportunity here. And the crazy opportunity is it's not just moving things that were in person to online. Because again, the way we did things in person was far out there for most people. But it's realizing that if you know how to design and facilitate the right kinds of conversations, right? And by the way, a bunch of people on a Zoom being talked at is not a conversation. It's the same bullshit that we were doing in person that was already commoditized, right? Like, sorry. Yeah. It was already becoming worth less every day. Not worthless, but worth less every day.
Yeah.
And democratized. So passive information sharing, ironically, what I'm doing right now is, it's really not where the value is. If you lead a community, you have to know how to bring them to actually talk with each other. And so, you've got to learn how to design questions and choreograph conversations virtually where you could have 50, 100, 500, and you move them in and out of different groups.
So Tracy is asking, and I have a follow-up question if we have the time.
Yeah.
She's asking, how many breakouts would you do within a session? I don't know how long her session is, but let's pretend, and this actually can piggyback into my question. On Friday, I'm having a town hall open Zoom meeting. Any of my clients who want to come in, I've given them the link, and we're just going to have an open discussion. So let's pretend it's an hour, or let's pretend it's a half day or full day. Is it there maybe a number of spacing?
Yeah. I mean, I could give you some real examples, and, we at Exchange have got somewhere between 15 and like 17 unique configurations of activities. So there's not a templated answer to that, but I mean, I'll give you an example. Well, let's just make it real for you. So give me that example again, and I'll tell you.
Town hall meeting for an hour. So open to my clients.
So, I mean, here's so you might just want to have an open dialogue or share things, but we have an activity we've done with several groups this week where we brought them together, totally pivoted. We threw out the door the original plan, and we said, in this moment, here's what we need. We've done this with 20, 50, 100 people on a Zoom by now. We said, here's what we need. We need to crowdsource the wisdom of this group right now. And we need to figure out in the next 30, 45, 60 minutes, what are the best strategies combining and curating our collective wisdom for what we should be doing as entrepreneurs, as authors, as blank in this current moment, right? So we've done that. And what we do is we say, here's the initial question. And the question would be along the lines of, what are all the creative, innovative, generous ways that you could create value for anybody in your ecosystems right now? Go 2 minutes, brainstorm as many ideas as you want. It's a sprint. Great. Now we're going to move you into groups of 4. And you have 20 minutes as a group of 4, 25 minutes. In your groups of 4, you are all going to share with each other everything you wrote down. And then you're going to come up with your top 3 or top 5 strategies. You're going to look for themes or energizing ideas, and you're going to choose top 3 strategies. And in 25 minutes, we're bringing you back. Every group is presenting what you created to every other group. We've done that this week multiple times. And I will tell you, every time the ideas that the collective wisdom comes up with, it's 10, 100 times better than if one person would have stood there and said, here's what all of you should do. So, I mean, that's an example of, so that's
that's my pen drop. Yeah. That's like brilliant. Yeah. See why I love John Berghoff?
Yeah, do it right. And by the way, if anyone's listening, we have a faculty who are trained, and they'll do this for you for free right now. Like, cause they know it'll come back to all of us one day. So like Amber, one of us will jump on your call and help you if you want to do something like that at any point. And the thing about virtual too is you might need to do something else. Well, what I just described, you sure as heck better be doing at some point in the next 3 days. Because within a couple weeks, if we can help it, everybody's going to be doing this kind of work on Zoom. So get ahead of it, because it's going to be what makes the biggest difference, is tapping collective wisdom in ways that not only solve the best problems now, but simultaneously create psychological safety, because we're continuing to create connection and inclusion, which is actually something people really need right now. So
100%. John, I cannot thank you enough for your time. I mean, I know how scarce your time is. You're being pulled in a lot of different directions. I'm also really appreciating just your calm leadership. You're very focused, very direct. You never cease to amaze me, man. Never cease to amaze me. So maybe if we are lucky, we'll get John back on a panel for another 30 minutes. If you would like to hear more from John Berghoff, drop us a comment below. Let me know. Maybe I'll entice him to come back during the Elevate series. Guys, we are coming back on the line in about an hour. I will be interviewing Annie Lee, all about operations and leadership. And then that's going to be a wrap for the day. To get notified of replays, what's happening, to watch live, be sure to not only like the NGNG Facebook page, but under the following tab, choose to see us first, even if it's just through the next week. I want to make sure that you're not missing these sessions. John, I want to thank you again for your time, man. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll talk later.
Thank you, Amber. Love what you're doing. Bye.